Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into, well, the architects of legacy. And specifically, we're diving into the journey of Adriana Rosales.
A really fascinating figure.
Absolutely. And we're framing this around a core question, one that kind of sits right where her toughest struggles meet her biggest ambitions.
Yes.
How did she do it? How did Adriana Rosales manage to take all these struggles, the deeply personal stuff, the professional roadblocks, and transform them?
Right. Transform them into this lasting legacy, something built around creation, love, leadership.
Exactly. And designed very explicitly to actually outlive her.
Yeah, that's the perfect lens, I think. Because when you really dig into her work, her writing, her business philosophy, you see that the professional structures she built, they aren't separate from her inner world at all. They're like completely intertwined.
So what are we drawing on today? What are the sources?
We've got a really interesting mix. 3 main sources, distinct but, as you said, interwoven. First, there's her poetry collection. I Am Poetry.
Yeah.
Very raw, very personal.
Got it.
Then, her business philosophy, laid out in the corporate code. Much more formal, structured.
Right.
And finally, we're bringing in some outside perspective professional analysis, stuff from CEO Times, and also the Women in the Workplace 2024 report.
Which gives some stark context, I imagine.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It really grounds her mission in current realities.
So the goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is to really unpack that journey.
Yeah, to see the connections.
How did things like trauma from her military service and feeling disillusioned with the corporate world,
Yeah, those tough experiences.
how did those combine with this really deep personal philosophy about love and even her neurodivergent way of thinking?
Right, which she sees as a strength.
How did all of that shape her into becoming what CEO Times called a cultural architect?
A great term for her.
Because her whole focus seems to be about amplifying voices, especially those often pushed to the margins, starting maybe with her own.
Absolutely. It feels like a story about taking vulnerability, that deep personal stuff, and making it the core strength of, well, a whole movement she's building.
Okay, so where do we start to understand that foundation, that core philosophy?
We have to go back. Right back to the beginning, really, to what you might call the crucible of her resilience.
Okay.
It was forged, apparently, in this moment of intense fear, a failure even, back when she was in the U.S. Air Force.
Ah, the military experience.
Exactly. This is where she made this fundamental promise that seems to guide everything else.
So this starts really early. She's just 19 in U.S. Air Force boot camp. And it kicks off with some, let's say, questionable advice from her uncle.
Right. The classic, don't volunteer for anything.
Which she actually followed. And the result wasn't great.
No, it landed her with laundry duty. But not just any laundry duty.
Explain that. It sounds more intense than just washing clothes.
Oh, it was. We're talking laundry for 70 airmen for the entire duration of boot camp. And you have to picture the scene she paints. It wasn't just a chore. It was designed to be, well, kind of humiliating. Physically brutal, too.
How so?
She describes these huge, heavy industrial laundry bags. She talks about constantly trying to dodge the instructors.
Who were yelling at her.
Relentlessly, apparently.
Yeah.
Calling her a weakling. Her whole existence revolved around hauling these heavy, smelly bags back and forth, second floor, dilapidated building.
Yeah.
Just grinding repetition and public failure.
Okay, so that sets the stage. But there is a specific incident, right? The turning point.
Yes. Right near the end of training. It's the moment that changes everything for her philosophy.
What happened?
It's 4 a.m., pitch black, freezing cold, she's rushing, and one of these massive laundry bags rips open.
Oh, no.
Uniforms everywhere.
Yeah.
A total mess. Then at 5 a.m., the instructor finds it, goes ballistic, wakes up the entire squadron, all 70 airmen, slamming beds, shouting.
Demanding to know who did it.
Exactly. And everyone knows who does the laundry. It's her.
So she's the obvious one.
The instructor yells her name, Rosales, step forward. But she says she just froze. Completely paralyzed. She talks about this overwhelming fear of the consequences, something she'd never felt before. Just stood there by her locker, silent.
And the stakes were high if she didn't confess.
Astronomical for the group. If she didn't say those 3 simple words, I was me, the whole squadron faced punishment.
Which was?
Running for 3 hours in the freezing cold.
And she couldn't say it.
Her fear kept her silent. She couldn't bring herself to take responsibility in that moment.
It's the whole team.
Pay the price. They all ran for hours because of her silence. And the fallout wasn't just physical.
What else?
She says the entire squadron shunned her afterwards. They knew it was her duty, her mistake. She felt like an utter failure, carrying that weight.
That's heavy, but it sounds like that failure became foundational.
Precisely. It didn't break her.
Yeah.
Instead, it forged this lifelong commitment.
The promise.
The promise. She vowed right then that she would never again let a team suffer because she couldn't take immediate, direct responsibility.
She actually uses the phrase, "Fear would never paralyze me again."
Yeah. It's not just some corporate slogan for her. It's like a personal covenant born out of that humiliation and failure.
And you can see how that directly links to her later work, right? Her corporate code.
Absolutely. If you look at the core values she puts front and center in the code.
Like courage and service.
Exactly. They come directly from this experience. She learned the hard way that leadership isn't about rank. It's about integrity. It's about protecting your team, taking the hit. Rank means nothing, she says, without integrity.
Wow. Okay, so that's the military crucible. But her journey of self-discovery, finding her voice, it continued, right, into midlife.
Definitely. And we see this reflected really powerfully in her poetry. There's this period of necessary emotional healing she talks about, especially around hitting 40.
Healing from what specifically?
It seems like it involves some really tough personal decisions, integrating pain into her art.
How so?
Well, she points to a specific poem, The Wind, written in June 2023, and she notes she wrote it after, quote, long pondering that I had to let go of close family members that did not have my best interest.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
She acknowledges it was, calls it a very difficult decision, a kind of profound severance. But then, crucially, she immediately frames it as very healing.
So choosing herself, her well-being, over maybe traditional obligations.
Exactly. Conscious self-preservation. And this feeds into her broader philosophy of self-acceptance.
The perfection idea.
Yeah, where she writes, being perfectly imperfect is my flaw and my superpower.
It's catchy, but it sounds like more than that.
It feels like a deliberate choice to take perceived weaknesses, like maybe that military failure, and reframe them as strengths, to stop chasing some impossible ideal. And she links this to turning 40. She describes this realization, this kind of intellectual liberation.
What did she realize?
That she'd been operating under what she calls childhood cultural brainwashing. You know, societal pressures, expectations about identity, how she should be. And she decided the only way to be is to be a child, joyful and uncaring of the fruitless lies. It's like an intentional reclaiming of authenticity.
And she found that liberating.
She explicitly says, life is sweeter at 40 with all its imperfections. This self-acceptance seems key. It's like the solid ground she needed internally before she could build this external movement.
And this internal work, this search for truth, it's also tied up with her identity, right? As a Latina in America.
Deeply. You see it articulated very powerfully in poems written around 2016. Which, you know, was a time of pretty high political tension.
Can you give an example?
The poem Ms. Chanclitis is a perfect one.
What's it about?
Chanclitis are sandals, indigenous sandals. She uses them as this potent symbol.
How?
She contrasts the pride and honor she felt wearing them in Mexico, connecting her to her history, her roots.
Okay.
With the shame and negativity she felt wearing those same sandals in America.
Wow, that's powerful.
She even writes about trying to hide them, painting over them to fit in, valuing Nikes over her own heritage. Until she has this moment of clarity.
A turning point.
Yeah, realizing the absurdity of it. And this realization fuels this really assertive, almost defiant political stance in her writing.
How does that come across?
Well, take how she addresses derogatory terms. She doesn't just reject them, she flips them.
Like the term anchor baby.
Exactly. She writes, Republicans call me anchor baby. I say heck yes. As anchored and stable as America itself.
Whoa!
Anchored like my generation's contributions to America. It's brilliant, really. Takes a weaponized term and redefines it as a source of strength and belonging.
She owns it.
Completely. And she also embraces the complexity of her identity.
Yeah.
She doesn't see it as one single thing.
How does she put that?
She says, if I had a penny for every white thought, and then brown thought, and then multicultural thought, I'd be rich. I am pennyful.
Pennyful. I like that.
Right. It's this acknowledgement that her strength, her creativity, comes from holding all these different parts of herself together. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
So this identity isn't just something she has, it's something she uses. It fuels her work.
It's the source code. She says her words are her revolution, her weapon. She urges others, have courage. Do not bend to the unspoken lies we all have read.
So you see the whole arc there, from the military failure, embracing imperfection, finding her voice, and then this political will to lead.
Exactly. It all builds.
Okay, so we've seen the personal crucible. Now let's shift to the corporate world. These were environments that really tested those values she was forming.
Right. And a key story here, a really impactful one, involves her boss, Zeth. This was back when she was a regional manager for a telecom company, around 2007.
And Zeth was different from other bosses.
Dramatically different, according to her account. His approach really shaped her thinking for the corporate code.
How was he different?
He focused on the whole person. That's the phrase she uses. He genuinely cared about her life outside of work metrics.
Can you give specifics? How did that show up?
Well, their breakfast meetings, for instance, they weren't just about hitting sales targets. Seth would ask about her family, her health. He specifically asked about the challenges of being a single parent.
So genuine interest, not just ticking an HR box.
That's how she perceived it. Authentic care, which was a stark contrast, she says, to the usual corporate obsession with just the bottom line, the KPIs.
And how did that affect her work?
She says she worked incredibly hard for him, not just for the money or the title, but because she felt genuinely seen, valued as a human being. He was clear, encouraging. She knew where she stood. That fostered real loyalty.
But as often happens, personal connection doesn't always shield you from larger corporate forces.
No. And this story takes a really tragic turn. It delivered this brutal lesson about the myth of separating business and personal life.
What happened to Zeth and the company?
The 2008 economic crash hit hard. The company's foreign investors pulled out. It closed down quickly.
And Zeth?
A couple of years later, in 2010, Zeth took his own life. A colleague told her the losses he suffered, financial, professional, personal, due to the crash were just unbearable.
Oh, that's awful.
It hit her hard. And it cemented this core belief for her, that the whole corporate idea of it's just business, not personal, is a dangerous falsehood.
Because it clearly was personal for Zeth.
It cost him everything.
Yeah.
And for her, it brought this deep sense of regret.
Regret about what?
She realized she'd never really told him how much she admired him, specifically his ability to lead with heart, to truly connect with his team.
So another lesson learned through a painful experience.
Yes. If the military incident taught her about taking responsibility for her own failures, Zeth's story taught her the absolute urgency of recognizing and affirming human value in others, especially leaders who get it right. She resolved, never miss an opportunity to let my leaders know how valuable they are.
You can see how Zeth's tragedy wasn't just a loss, it became a catalyst.
Absolutely. It reinforced that promise she made in the military, prioritized people, and it really pushed her towards developing a system, her heart-centered approach, where that human element isn't just nice to have, it's fundamentally linked to success.
Okay, so Zeth's story is one major corporate lesson. What else shaped her leadership thinking?
The next key lesson came from a very different environment, Puerto Rico.
Ah, yes, the move to Aguadilla.
Right. She was young, only 24, made this bold move, took a significant pay cut, like $40,000, which is huge then.
Why take the cut?
For the title. She wanted to be marketing director for the city mayor.
So she gets there, ambitious, coming from Silicon Valley.
Exactly, full of that intense, fast-paced California work ethic. And she immediately clashes with the local pace.
The Puerto Rican hours, as she calls them.
Yeah, that laid-back approach, it drove her crazy. She saw her team, who were educated, as just unwilling to match her speed and drive.
So what does she do? Complained.
Went straight to the top, marched into the mayor's office, ready to complain about her team, probably expecting him to tell her to discipline them or fire them.
And what did the mayor do?
Instead of a reprimand, he told her a story.
A story?
The story of the mama bird, pushing her young out of the nest, off the cliff, so they learned to fly.
Okay. What was the message there?
It was a lesson in trust, specifically what she calls GUT trust.
Yeah.
The mayor basically said, look, I hired you. He knew her background, Air Force, project management. He trusted she had what it took to figure it out, to fly.
So he wasn't going to micromanage?
Not at all. He gave her the space to learn, even if it meant she made mistakes, maybe even costly ones for the city along the way. He trusted her process.
That's a very different leadership style than the fail fast and break things mentality sometimes seen elsewhere.
Very different. It taught her the value of compassion, of patience, of allowing young leaders the room to grow, even through errors.
And this led to a motto for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want the honey, Adriana, don't rock the beehive. Learn to observe first. Understand the dynamics before you charge in trying to change everything. It taught her strategic patience and the importance of mentorship over immediate intervention.
So these experiences, the military failure, Zeth's human-centered leadership and tragic end, the mayor's lesson in trust and patience, they all feed into her big framework.
Exactly. They are the building blocks for the corporate code.
Let's dig into that code. What's the core idea?
The big shift she advocates is moving from linear thinking to what she terms exponential thinking.
Okay, break that down. Linear versus exponential in her view.
Well, linear thinking is incremental, doing slightly better than last quarter, making small improvements within the existing system, often reinforces silos.
Standard business practice, often.
Right. Exponential thinking, though, asks bigger questions, like, what if we rebuilt the whole system? It aims for nonlinear 10x type growth by focusing on systems thinking, leveraging human potential, technology, and especially culture, making them work together in new ways. It's about scaling the culture to enable massive growth, not just tweaking processes.
And the corporate code itself, she defines it as having a specific perspective.
Yes, crucially, a bottom-up perspective.
Why is bottom-up so important to her?
Because of her experiences. She saw it firsthand, like with Zeth, how top-down systems that only value the numbers can crush the human element.
So bottom-up aims to fix that disconnect.
Precisely. It's designed to bridge that gap between the C-suite strategies and what's actually happening on the front lines. It demands that leaders prioritize the needs, the potential, the emotional well-being of their people first.
Based on the belief that optimized people lead to optimized results.
Exactly. Her core belief is that empowering human capital is non-negotiable. She says, quite directly, a heart-centered focus on business always comes with palpable growth.
Palpable growth.
Yeah, and the code aims to revolutionize business by centering everything around 4 key values: trust, courage, compassion, and service.
Wait, those sound familiar.
They should. They're the very values forged in her own crucibles. Military failure taught her courage and service. Zeth taught her compassion and the value of trust. The mayor reinforced trust and compassion. She's essentially embedding her life lessons into a business operating system.
Okay, so she develops this powerful framework based on hard-won experience, but her drive to create, to build things, started much earlier, didn't it?
Oh yeah, long before the corporate code was fully articulated. Her entrepreneurial spirit was evident pretty early on.
Back in Las Vegas.
Right. At just 25, she launches DigiPhoto. And you have to remember the context.
Pre-smartphones.
Exactly. This wasn't just an app idea. It involved actual physical equipment, teams, complex logistics for digital photography services.
And DigiPhoto had some significant success.
It did. Historically significant, actually. It landed the first ever awarded contract with the city of Las Vegas for their Centennial Mural project.
Wow. What did that involve?
It was a huge project. She led a team of 15 photographers, capturing the images that would visually define Las Vegas at that moment for its 100th anniversary.
That sounds like a major undertaking, especially at 25.
Huge. And financially rewarding, too, paid her more than her previous year's salary. But she emphasizes that the real takeaway wasn't the money.
What was it then?
It was the realization of the power involved in giving people the ability to see themselves in the story of their city.
Ah, that connection again between image, identity, community.
Exactly. That emotional resonance, that sense of shared narrative, that was the core value she took away, and that insight really becomes the blueprint for everything she does next.
Which leads us to RMPStudio.
Her current major focus, yes. And here, she explicitly redefines her role. She's not just a publisher. She calls herself a cultural architect.
Cultural architect, that's a strong metaphor. What does it mean in practice for RMPStudio and the authors she works with?
Well, think about architecture. An architect doesn't just decorate a room. They design the whole structure, the foundation, the framework. Okay, so traditional publishing often acts like a gatekeeper, deciding who gets into the existing cultural house. Rosales, as a cultural architect, is building entirely new structures, new platforms, new frameworks specifically to support and elevate the voices that were previously left outside.
Building new houses, essentially.
Or even new cities. It's about creating the infrastructure for inclusion on a massive scale.
Which explains her incredibly ambitious goal.
The goal to bring 1 million voices into print by 2030.
1 million. That's staggering. That's not just publishing. It's aiming for a demographic shift in whose stories get told.
It's absolutely a sociocultural mission.
Yeah.
And they're making progress.
What kind of impact are they having so far?
RMPStudio has already published over 100 books, guided hundreds of first-time authors, and crucially, the focus remains squarely on those marginalized groups: Latinos, women, multicultural writers, people who often hit walls with traditional publishers.
And initiatives like Latinas 100, how does that fit the architecture idea?
Latinas 100 is a perfect example. It spans over 24 countries. It's not just about producing individual books.
It's building connections.
It's building a movement, as she says. They create movements, not just manuscripts. It's about creating this international network, this community, where Latina identity, expertise, and stories are shared, validated, amplified across borders. It's literally architecting a global cultural space.
Anchoring those voices into the record.
Precisely.
Now let's connect this back to her personally. She talks about her neurodivergence, being diagnosed later in life as being on the autism spectrum. How does she see that fitting in?
This is really interesting. She doesn't frame it as a deficit or a challenge to overcome.
No.
Quite the opposite. She explicitly calls it her superpower, especially for the work she does.
How so? A superpower for cultural architecture.
She says her brain is wired for pattern recognition, for seeing connections and systems that other people might miss.
So it helps her see the bigger picture, the structural gaps.
Exactly. That ability to spot the macro patterns, like how corporate culture fails its people, or how publishing systematically excludes certain voices, allows her to design these comprehensive, interlocking solutions. The corporate code, RMPStudio, these are systemic solutions.
Solutions that maybe a more linear thinker wouldn't conceive of in the same way.
That seems to be her perspective. But then she always grounds this, technical skill back in her core identity.
As a poet.
Yes. She says, I am at heart a poet. And poetry for her isn't just self-expression. It's fundamental. It's how we stitch together what it means to be human.
So the analytical architectural brain and the deeply feeling poet's heart are not separate for her.
Not at all. They're completely integrated. Her ability to architect a corporate code seems directly linked to her ability to write a poem about love or loss. It's all part of the same toolkit.
Okay, let's delve deeper into that heart-centered aspect. It's central to the corporate code, but you mentioned it's not just a metaphor for her, it's based on science.
Yes, quite specifically. She's actually a certified heart math coach.
Heart math, what is that?
It's a system based on research into the heart-brain connection. She uses it particularly to support veterans and others in the community with emotional regulation and building resilience.
So what's the core scientific idea?
It centers on the concept of coherence. Heart math research shows the heart sends more information signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart.
Really? The heart leads.
In many ways, yes. The heart isn't just a pump, it's an information processor. Coherence is when your heart rhythms, brain waves, and nervous system become synchronized. It's a measurable state of physiological harmony.
Okay, a state of flow, almost. Relaxed but alert.
That's a good way to put it. A state of optimal function. And the intelligence the heart gathers in this state, what they call heart intelligence or HQ, directly influences brain function.
So how does achieving coherence translate to business, to her heart-centered approach?
When individuals or teams operate in a state of coherence, things change. Stress goes down, cognitive function improves, decision-making becomes clearer, creativity flows more easily. You're moving beyond just reacting to stress.
So she's basically arguing that emotional well-being and coherence are prerequisites for peak performance.
Exactly. It's not soft stuff. It's a demand for optimal internal functioning. If your leadership isn't coherent, isn't practicing compassion and emotional intelligence, the system is inherently performing below its potential. It makes those values measurable contributors to success.
That scientific grounding really adds weight to her mission, especially when you place it against the backdrop of the corporate world she's trying to change.
Absolutely, and that's where the Women in the Workplace 2024 report comes in. It paints a stark picture of why her work, her cultural architecture, feels so urgent.
What does the data show?
It highlights the deep systemic barriers that the very people she aims to publish are facing. Let's look at a few points. Data point 1, Latina underrepresentation. The report shows Latinas are the most underrepresented group of women right at the beginning of the pipeline.
Entry-level jobs.
Yeah. They make up over 9% of the U.S. population, but hold just under 6% of entry-level positions. The exclusion starts immediately.
Wow. And does it get better further up?
That leads to data point 2, the broken rung. This is that persistent problem of women struggling to get the first promotion into management.
How bad is it?
For every 100 men promoted to manager in 2024, only 81 women were. That first step up is still incredibly difficult, hindering progress throughout the pipeline.
So the system itself is flawed.
Deeply. And if we look at the pace of change for women of color reaching senior leadership, well, it's alarming.
This is data point 3.
Yes. The report projects it will take 48 years.
48 years.
48 years for the representation of women of color in senior leadership to actually reflect their share of the population.
It's a generation.
It's practically glacial. And it completely justifies Rosales' approach, doesn't it? Why wait for corporations or traditional publishing to slowly, maybe, fix themselves?
Yeah.
Her work is about building a parallel system now, rewriting the cultural code directly.
It frames her 1 million voices goal not just as ambitious, but as necessary.
A necessary intervention.
Which brings us back, in a way, to the very beginning, to the core motivation, the personal why behind all this architecture, all this building.
Yes, because threaded through all of it, especially evident in the poetry, is this deeply personal dedication.
The collection, I Am Poetry, is dedicated to someone.
To her beloved. It seems to be the anchor for everything.
How does she express that?
The dedication itself is incredibly moving. She writes, "My love, here are the words that flowed through me for all these years." It's like the entire collection is an offering.
Wow.
My hope is that this circles back to us, and that when we find each other again, you will know deep in your soul that you are loved beyond measure.
So the professional legacy, the cultural architecture, it's all fueled by this profound personal love.
It seems inseparable. This love isn't just a footnote. It's the power source. It's the why. She even writes about its scope, its persistence across time.
Is there a quote for that?
From a poem dated June 2024. I've loved you 10,000 lives and yearn for 10,000 more.
10,000 lives. That's epic.
It is, and it synthesizes everything, doesn't it? She's taken the most profound human emotions, love, loss, resilience, and hasn't just processed them personally, but has actually codified them into these scalable systems for business and cultural impact.
The leadership legacy, the creative legacy, it's all rooted in love.
The ultimate purpose.
Yeah.
The thing designed to outlive her, ensuring, as she puts it, that her heart is glowing and the world reflects that love.
It's really quite a journey when you lay it all out, from that specific moment of failure in the Air Force.
The promise made in fear.
Through the corporate lessons, Zeth's impact, the mayor's wisdom.
Learning compassion, trust, patience.
To codifying it all in the corporate code, embracing her identity, her neurodivergence.
Using it all as fuel.
And finally, becoming this cultural architect driven by heart math science and this immense personal love, aiming for 1 million voices.
It's a powerful narrative. And it shows, I think, that our deepest wounds, our toughest struggles, they can become sources of incredible strength.
But not automatically.
No, not automatically.
Right.
Only when that pain is consciously integrated, when it's connected to a clear philosophy, a purpose.
For her, that professional drive and the global mission seem completely tied to her personal beliefs, her belief in love, and the heart's intelligence.
They're one and the same.
Yeah.
And she seems to choose joy, choose authenticity as the actual path forward. Publishing, creating, it's not just an industry for her.
It's a necessity.
A necessity for identity, she'd argue, for representation, for legacy.
So maybe the final thought for you listening is this. We've seen how Adriana Rosales built this intricate architecture, this code, from resilience, from science, from
Right.
love. If the future really does belong to those who can embrace technology, build systems, but without losing their soul, their humanity, then what's the framework you're building? What's the code you're writing, consciously or unconsciously, to make sure your deepest values, your core principles are truly embedded in your life's work, in your own legacy?
Something to really think about. Until the next deep dive, keep questioning, keep exploring.
And keep building your own architecture.